Yeah, there ain't much testing that needs to be done. We can hear that alternator whining. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the battery charged while we defrost the vehicle with the alternator off of here. All right, so we've got a 2008 Saturn Vue, which is going to be the same as the 2009. And no, I shouldn't be making videos about 2-year-only automobiles.
Then again, I'm the only one who really works on these things and even makes videos about them, so I might as well make one. This video actually covers a lot of different years and a lot of different models of GM. So pay attention, folks. I'm going to inspire and empower you to do these things yourself while still making you a stinking legend in your own neighborhood. So my name's Clay with the Clayway here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. There is not anything that anyone else can do that you cannot do. That I promise you. You just think a little bit about what's going on and what's going to happen, you'll be A-okay doing it the Clayway. If you dig what I'm trying to do down here on my channel, please consider subscribing, clicking the notifications, sharing these videos, and giving them the sweet old thumbs up. If you've got a question for me and ain't baby mama drama related, car related generally is what I can help people with. However, if you're watching my channel all the time, you're going to learn about brain injuries. So keep that in mind while you're here. There's a lot of that going on. Look me up on Clay's AC and Auto Repair on the Facebook Messenger. Send me a DM. It's absolutely free. I don't collect any information, any of that BS. Consider subscribing. Let's get on with the show. So in this video, we're not only going to show you how to replace this, but we're going to tell you why you're replacing it. Which often, if you're not aware of it, knowing why something went bad is definitely much more important than even knowing how to repair it. Because not everybody's going to repair things. Nowadays, we definitely have to repair things versus replacing them whenever possible. So this situation, I ended up doing this alternator for about $55, plus the hour or so it took me to change it. Even you in your driveway should be able to change this thing in a couple hours with these instructions very simply and very easily.
Good thing about this one is this alternator replacement is good for the Chevy Equinox with the 3.0 and 3.6. And the GMC Terrain with the 3.0 and the 3.6.
So the Suzuki XL7 with the 3.6, yeah, that's a GM Theta platform, just like this one. Believe it or not, you might be tired of my rambling, but this is also important information. So the GMC Terrain, Chevy Equinox, Suzuki XL7, Chevy Captivia, Pontiac Torrent, Saturn Vue are called the Theta platform, just like things used to be called the W body or like the B body, C body. Well, this is the platform and the basis where everything is built around. Even though they look completely different, under the skin, they're the same. So this video will help you even on a Chevy Impala with the LFX, which is what the designation for the 3.6 is. So keep that in mind when you're looking for stuff. If it says LFX 3.6, it's going to be the same as this. They started the LFX 3.6 platform in 2008, and they're still making it to this day, except in 2013, if I remember correct, it was 11 or 13, they went from normal fuel injectors to direct injections. Now, the direct injection system doesn't change anything. So if you're looking at a video for, in this situation, at a 2008, it's going to be the same nuts and bolts. They may look different like on the intake and stuff, but really they're not different. The alternator I took out from a 2013 or 2014 that we're going to put inside here, and it bolted right up, plugged right in, no problem. And it was from I want to say it was from a GMC Terrain or something. I had it rebuilt and didn't really pay any attention because it didn't matter to me. But we need to get on with this show, and my rambling needs to be done.
So it's going to be the same procedure, and I'm going to show you through the steps how they're the same. So anyways, we're going to show you how to do this as simple as possible and as easy as possible. So let's get going on with this show. First thing that we need to do is we need to check out the alternator. Oh, we've got a whine. Yes. Give her a little gas, Christian. No, that's not a supercharger underneath there. That's not the Kool-Aid man underneath there making that purry whine. It's a bad alternator. So let's get this thing done. Our battery only has 12 volts.
To save myself the expense of a tow, I just put a brand new battery in it to get it drove over to the shop, which was about a 35-minute drive. Now, I point that out because you could have spent $150 on a tow or bought a $150 battery that you were going to need anyways, because when it's out in the cold like this, they freeze. So in a sense, I killed two birds with one stone. I needed a new battery, I needed a tow, and a new battery. So I just saved myself $150 and hopefully you as well. They will go quite far without having an alternator working. In my situation, my vehicle sounded like a supercharged vehicle, so I knew my alternator was shot. But in yours, you might not. So you want to double check your fuses and such, because you never know. There could be other things that are causing this problem as well. So we want to check all of the fuses, because sometimes you find other things that are broken that you weren't even looking for.
Okay, first thing we want to do is turn the key to the on position. We do not need it running. We're going to remove this fuse box cover right here. And quite simply, there's a tab right down here, along with one that is right here. And we're going to hook up a power probe, and the power probe is quite simply a test light for the most part. Negative here, positive there. Thanks for playing the middle finger challenge. Yeah, that's a little game we play down here on the show with friends just like you. So you miss the finger is the point. You win if you miss the finger, but if you didn't miss the finger, you didn't win. Okay, in order to hook that up, we hook up the ground here and the positive here. This should always have battery power here, and this should always be grounded here, which will turn on these lights. And the great thing about this is, if you needed to power a circuit up, you can push on the rocker and power that circuit up. So that'll tell you if a component's defective, like a relay or something like that. More about that stuff in other videos. When we go through these fuses, they have these little tippies. And when the fuse is good and the ignition is on, just touch it to the top. We should have battery voltage on both sides of the fuses. Now I go through and I check every single fuse inside the car and under the hood. And if, like, say one of the fuses, which I don't have any bad fuses, so I can't really show it, but if you go to one side of the fuse and it's green and it's red right there, that means it has 12 volts going up into it. If you go over here and it has a green one there, that generally means that the fuse is blown. And if it has nothing, that means that the fuse doesn't go to anything. Oh, we're going to go through and check all of these, even though in this situation, the most important tool was our own brain, and we already know that this alternator is bad.
Got a 2008 Saturn Vue, which is going to be the same as the 2009. And no, I shouldn't be making videos about 2-year-only automobiles. But the good thing about this one is
This motor mount removal is going to cover a lot of different types of vehicles. So if yours don't look identical to this, I promise you, it's going to be very, very similar.
for the Chevy Equinox with the 3.0 and 3.6, and the GMC Terrain with the 3.0 and the 3.6. So it's going to be the same procedure, and I'm going to show you through the steps how they're the same because I just happen to have one. Actually, I have both of them. All right, so we need to unhook this engine, and the way this is supposed to work is you're supposed to be able to just knock that thing over. Of course, I can't do it because I had the battery out. All right, so we need to disconnect this battery. So we'll slide that thing off of there and leave it hooked up. Push down on this thing right here. Lift up on that thing right there. Pull up on this thing right here. Unhook this thing right here. Lift that out of there. Brand new battery.
A good working, good strong battery should have at least 12.5 volts in it. If it's not able to stay charged at 12.5 volts, it's probably got a bad cell and needs to be replaced. The biggest issues about taking a vehicle to a repair shop is because when they get it there, they're going to want to replace this battery anyways. So you might as well replace the battery, turn all the accessories off, and drive it to the repair shop if you're going to have someone else do it. Or you can just follow these simple instructions and you'll have this thing done in probably half the time of watching this video.
And this 10mm nut up right here. Now, when you folks go back to putting on your battery cables, only snug them up, like 10 pounds maybe. You over tighten them, they're not going to fit on these posts. And believe it or not, the positive and negative post are different sizes and diameters.
It's really unnecessary to disconnect that for just replacing the motor mount, but if you're doing like an alternator or water pump, you won't to. All of these covers on these LFX engines are just held on by little rubber pushies and posts stitched up.
This top cover is held on by these little pins, like back here and stuff, and this oil cap. 1, 2, 3 holding points on this particular looking cover, but I believe there's other covers that have 4.
First thing we're gonna do is pop this tab back. Christian, you can start taking them things out of there. Try not to pull it out all the way. Won't release. Push it as far forward as you can. Quickly snap it back.
If I remember correctly, there were 4 screws holding down this airbox cover.
These are just rubber studs up here. You've got 2 10mm bolts back there. Now we're gonna take a block of wood and we're gonna set it right up underneath here and just apply pressure to the bottom of the engine till the vehicle starts to lift a little bit. Then using a 15mm, we're gonna remove these 3 bolts here and an 18mm to remove them 2 nuts down there to remove the whole motor mount off of there.
While we're doing this, and after we remove all of the bolts and the nuts, now we need to remove the upper crossover engine mount bracket here.
1, 2, 3 bolts and get that out of our way so we don't have to work around it. Now I just quite simply jack the motor up until the vehicle started lifting up off the ground, and I've got access to just about everything I need to.
Now that bar will simply get out of your way and you can gain access to your water pump or your alternator if that's what you're working on. I'm personally using this portion on my alternator replacement and my water pump replacement videos.
Now we're going to take our 1/2-inch Serpentine belt tool, which you'll have to rent at one of AutoZone or wherever. We're going to stick it right down inside here. I'm going to turn clockwise. A couple little pro pointers. If you're ever changing a Serpentine belt and you need a spring tensioner, usually if there's a hole right here, that means you can turn it and put a pin in it and set it in that spot. In this particular situation, it's going to turn clockwise like that. You want to always try to slide it off of a flat pulley first. So in this situation, it'll be this one. You're always going to want to reinstall it on a flat pulley because you'll be able to slide it on easier than on a grooved pulley. Make special note of your Serpentine belt. Should be good. I'm going to try to pull it off as little as possible. So I'm going to slide it off of here, try to keep it around my AC compressor, and move it off my alternator. Now, if I remember correctly, we've got 3 bolts that hold this on. This bolt right here goes through the center of the alternator. 2 bolts up here that need to come out, and then we'll be able to pull it out, unhook our wires, and hopefully replace it. 15mm there. If both of my long-handled ratcheting folding head wrenches weren't bad, I wouldn't be doing this with this 15mm gear wrench, but we'll get it off.
It's warm though, so it'll probably break loose.
Yeah, it's warm, so hopefully they break loose, as Kristen would say as he burns his hands. So we'll remove this bolt, and then we'll remove the other bolt as well. So this is the way to go. Loosen it up with the longer gear wrench, then grab a stubby gear wrench. You'll be able to move them a lot quicker. Kind of in an awkward place to use pneumatics, but anytime you're working on automobiles, the more pneumatics you can use, the better off you will. Trust me, it will make things so much faster for you.
These alternators only have 3 points that they bolt down. This with the idler pull, and then these 2 bolts here. I don't think this one had been replaced before, but on other models of General Motors, there are sometimes brackets on the back of here, like bolted to here or bolted to the back of here. It doesn't look like it, and there definitely wasn't on mine, but I should point that out just in case.
Well, now Christian from Clutch Society is going to pull that bolt out of there, and we're going to pull it towards us and kind of flip it up so we can get to the back connectors easier. No sense in messing with them in an awkward position. Now, on the back side of the alternator, we have a rubber bung that is covering the main power plug. That's usually held on by a 13mm nut. So we'll take that cover off of there. We have 1 electrical connector on it. This cover is pulled down right here. You can't see shit. We've got an electrical connector right here. We push down on that. Little tab right there, comes out. Once again, if it won't come out, push it towards the object, pry up on that, and then pull it back. Now, we've got a post right here. We need to take that 13 millimeter off of there, and we should be able to drag that alternator out through where the air filter box was.
I don't know where the video went that had me using this longer extension to go down inside there with a 13 millimeter wobble on it, but it came off in seconds.
Notice how he clocked that thing when he pulled it out of there. Good job, Clutch Society Christian. Oh, whenever you're changing alternators, especially when you're using used ones, you want to make sure that the pulleys are the same. If the pulleys are same, you don't have to change them, but this pulley got a little bit cut, so we would probably swap that thing out with this pulley, which was the original one, if they were the same diameter. Make sure when you reinsert this that you have this on here. Now, with these alternators, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to use the pulley from our original one. We'll use this one because of the depth in here and the way that these styles are. So I think we'll be okay with this pulley, this alternator. It'll be fine. We just got to clean it up a little bit, make sure it's not gnarled. You see, this alternator actually looks better than this alternator. This is the alternator that I took out of it. This is an alternator from a 2013, and when I spin that one, it keeps spinning. When I spin this one, no quarto. This makes a lot of noise. What I did was I took this one off of a 2013. I took it down to the alternator rebuild shop. Start batteries here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Bill hooked me up. He only charged me about 55 bucks, which today, believe it or not, is a pretty good deal. Now, with this little slit that somebody made from whatever it was that they were trying to take off of the car before me, I just took a filed it down. Should be good. Not really too worried about it. Well, while we're up in here, we noticed that the water pump is probably leaking. Luckily, I think I have another water pump for this thing. Now, when we're looking for water pump leaks, we can see the water up here, so I'm not so sure that it's actually the pump gasket or not, but we're going to have to fix that for sure. Definitely a good running vehicle and worth doing. Anytime you're working on anything, you want to spin the pulleys and see how that feels. Wiggle it a little bit. And if it's got any wiggle or play or movement to it, then you definitely need to replace it. All right, so we need to put this in, and we're going to clock this right about here. Yeah, I did that with one hand. It's a little bit easier to do with two. I think I found it simpler to insert this bolt and our idler into that hole to hold it up. And then I should be able to just move it up into position, put my bolts back in. Let's not forget to put our positive cable on the back post right there. Should be able to do it from right here. Just in case you forgot, these two longer bolts are the ones for the alternator, and the shorter ones are for that. Even if it looks like you can't get pneumatic tools in somewhere, you should still try, because you're going to save yourself a lot of effort by using them. I don't know if I'm going to get this one in here, but at least I got that one. To do a belt inspection, what you want to look for is 3 cracks within a 3-inch span on your belt. If there's more than 3 cracks, it needs to be replaced. I know me personally, back in the day, I used to go by the rule of 8 cracks per inch, or it was 5 cracks per inch. I guess now they're calling for 3 cracks per 3 inches, but that seems a little bit too soon to replace it. However, you don't want to break, so better safe than sorry.
It kind of boggles my mind that I would know for a fact it went from 8 cracks per inch to now 3 cracks per every 3 inches. That's stupid to me. I think that it's designed to sell you more belts that you probably don't need, because serpentine belts very rarely break. But whatever makes you feel good is what you should do.
We're going to reinstall a serpentine belt, and I'm going to show you some tricks and tell you some things about reinstalling serpentine belts.
So yeah, our belt goes on just like that, and then we're going to put it on the smooth pulley because it's the easiest one to insert it. Make sure that it goes on the back of your power steering pump, on your harmonic balancer down there. I know you can't see it, but you guys can look, and around your AC compressor. Okay, so that's the way that it's on there now. Now, something that's really stupid to me is this water pump. Man, it seemed like it'd be easy for that to not glide across there. It should have a lot of coverage on it. I'm going to look it up and make sure that this is the correct belt routing.
I find this extremely fascinating that is as much as that serpentine belt goes along that water pump. But nevertheless, I'm going to leave it this way because it's the way that it works. Anytime you're working on something, you want the belt to contact the grooved pulleys as much as possible, so this does not make any sense to me. I suppose the most important thing, and this will even tell you how to know how to put on a belt without even looking it up, is that there's going to be the most coverage going around the harmonic balancer. That way, you can only put the belt on one way because obviously some pulleys are flat and obviously some pulleys are grooved.
I think reassembly from that point was pretty much, you know, self-explanatory. We left the jack underneath the engine up, and we put our main motor mount crossbar on with the 3 bolts. Then put on our motor mount with the other 3 bolts and the 2 nuts. Then we put our back inside, the bottom portion of it, put our 2 10mm back on, and installed our top cover, plugged in our sensors and such. Now we're ready to check and see if this thing actually works. And to do that, we're gonna hook our power probe back up, put our battery cables back on, everything down, start it up, see if it whines, see if it makes more voltage than the 12 volts that it had before, which was absolutely 0. Well, it's really sucky. It doesn't sound like it's supercharged anymore, but with 260 horse, it's really not bad. So here's the big testaroo. Look at that. That's putting out 14.7, which is exactly what we want. So I would consider this a very successful repair. Ultimately, this alternator was defective because there was a bad voltage regulator in the back of it. It doesn't really have bad bearings, but something, either the water pump or the alternator, had to have a bad bearing because you could hear it before I changed it. I just couldn't tell you for sure if it was the water pump or if it was this alternator at the moment, but I'm going to take this down to Quick Start Batteries, drop it off to Bill so he'll have one to sell someone else. He treated me right, so I'm just going to give him this cord because I don't need it for any reason. Now, hopefully that video was helpful. You'll consider subscribing, clicking the notifications, sharing my videos, and giving me them sweet old thumbs up. Remember, don't be the next to them, be the absolute first of you. And if anyone else can do it, you can do it too! Ay, ay, ay! Anyways, God bless, folks. Have the greatest of days.